Our Mr. Men game is a great game to engage and inspire the children through storytelling and play. Coaches will challenge the children to imitate their favourite characters as they dribble around, aiming to get as many touches as possible. If you're working with older children, we recommend swapping the characters from the Mr. Men books with famous footballers. To set up our Mr. Men game, you will need large yellow cones and a football for each participant. Now, let's get into the delivery. Begin by introducing the session, explaining the area that the children will be working within. Then introduce the first characters that the children will be imitating. Our blue area, can everyone see our blue area?
Yes.
It is now changed. It is now a book. And you have to stay inside all of the pages. This book is called Mr. Men. Put your hand up if you've read the Mr. Men books before.
No, you haven't.
Fantastic. Right, so this game, ready? I'm going to give you lots and lots of different characters.
I haven't.
And you have to try and be the characters. So our first character is Mr. and Mrs. Fast. And you have to try and go as fast as you can, but you have to stay inside of our book. We also have Mr. and Mrs. Slow, and they go super slow-mo. So you're going to go Mr. and Mrs. Fast and Mr. and Mrs. Slow, and you have to listen for when I call them out, and then you're going to be inside of our blue book. Ready? On your marks, get set. Mr. and Mrs. Fast, let's go, go, go. Who's the quickest? Whoa, that's very speedy. Well done. Whoa, nice sound effects, Max. Next up, introduce new characters into the session. I have got my book and we're going to turn the page. On the first page, we had Mr. and Mrs. Fast and Mr. and Mrs. Slow. Now we've got Mr. and Mrs. Jelly. How does Jelly move? It wobbles. So this time you have to go round as wibbly wobbly jelly wherever you go, and I want to see who is the wobbliest of all of the jellies. We also have another one, and this one is Mr. and Mrs. Tall, and you have to go as tall as you can as you get your touches. So we've got two new characters. Ready, on your marks, get set. Mr. and Mrs. Jelly. Who's the wibbly wobbliest? Whoa, look at Jackson. Quick, let's go. How wobbly can you go? How wobbly can you go? That's it, on your feet. Mr. and Mrs. Tall. Who can be the tallest? Now give the children the opportunity to shout out the characters for the rest of the group. Put one of them in charge of calling out the names. What we're going to do this time is I've been reading the book so far, and I've been turning the pages and calling out all of our different characters. This time one of you are going to be reading our book and you're going to be calling out the characters. Jackson, you're listening beautifully. You come and stand over here. Jackson is going to be reading the book with me, so you have to listen very, very carefully to his instructions. We're going to turn the page. What's the first one on there?
Wobbly jelly.
Right, Mr. and Mrs. Jelly, off you go. Who's the wobbliest? How wobbly can you go? To make the session more difficult and appropriate for older children, swap the characters from the Mr. Men books with famous footballers. For example, children have to dribble around just like Messi using their left foot. And finally, to impress parents, introduce new skills through fun storytelling.